The Expedition is a game that I saw demoed at Gen Con 2023. It is a very small game. It comes in a box of the standard size of a standard deck of cards, but it has meeples in it and cubes and other components. So that was super interesting that this game packs so small and yet has even wooden components that go with it. It's a game for 1 to 3 players. Matter of fact, a significant amount of cards that you see here are indeed the automata that you will use for the Scyther version, which I did try. Other than that, it plays with 1 to 3 players, and these are the solo rules, and these are the general rules. So very simple, very short, and again, very portable. You're gonna have 9 locations that you're gonna shuffle, and you're gonna place in a grid of 3 by 3. I guess it's more than 9 locations. No, it is 9. There you go. Did I lose my mind already? Maybe. The locations, the thing that matters the most is the number you see in the bottom right corner, which is the number of victory points that the location is worth to the player that controls it at the end of the game. And you're gonna have your meeple that is gonna start somewhere on the board, and then each player also have a pool of cubes of their own color. There you go. That's how you set up the game. Pretty simple, right? However, you also need, if you're playing multiplayer, to give each player cards representing different objectives, such as have 4 markers adjacent, connect on the full side, no corners for that. Markers in 3 corners of the grid, 3 markers not adjacent on a whole row, whole diagonal, and so on and so forth. And suppose that these are the 3 objectives that I have. So the idea is that I'm trying to complete my objectives. Pretty simple. During your turn, game is simplicity itself, I'm gonna move my meeple to an orthogonally adjacent area, and I'm gonna leave a control marker behind. So that was literally my turn, and then blue takes their turn, and that's what they do. And orange takes their turn, and that's what they do. And then purple again, and that's what they do. Pretty simple, right? Now, here is the trick. So when you move, you leave a cube behind. If you move away from an area that has somebody else's cube in it, that cube is removed and you place your own. And that's how things can become pretty confrontational, because you're trying to figure out what other people want to do. And as you move, you remove their cubes to place yours. So that's how it works. And at some point, maybe, hopefully, you will be able to demonstrate that you completed one of your objectives. And suppose that, I don't know, I'm doing this, and one of my objectives was to have, as purple, a whole column. That's totally what I was supposed to do. I'm looking, yes, that's totally one of my objectives. So when I have completed one of my objectives, I demonstrate that I do so, I reveal it, I place it face up next to me, and it'll be worth that amount of points at the end of the game. The end of the game is triggered when a player completes 2 of their initial 3 objectives, and they show that that's the case. Then every other player still gets a turn, and then we score points. The points that we score are based on the objectives that we completed, plus the points afforded by the planets where we have control. Again, looking at the bottom right corner there, that would be worth 3 points. If this was the end of the game, these are the cards that I completed, then purple scores 5 points, plus 3, plus 2, plus 1. This is the game, as simple as that. Now, if you're playing against the AI, then you shuffle these cards, you will place 2 next to the board. You may wanna place the cubes. Say I'm playing against the orange automaton, and that's that one. and then I'm playing against blue automaton, and those are the cubes there. Oh, the end of the game can also be triggered if a player has all of their cubes on the board. I should have mentioned that. But usually it's the good thing is, well, you want to complete those objectives. And so now I'm simply playing my game as normal. As you can see, the automaton tells me also where is the starting position for each automaton. So the orange starts from there, and there's an S there, so blue starts from there. And suppose I want to start from up there. Only I, the human player, have objective cards that I'll try to complete, and I just play as normal. And suppose I decide to play it that way, and then blue starts from there. There's a number 1 there, so that's where blue goes in turn number 1. And there is, for orange, there is the S, that's starting position. There's a 1 there, and that's where they go. And I just play as normal. Now, you will know where the other 2 players go, so you can choose to just turn it into as much of a puzzle as you want. And I play the game solo, and I didn't do it that way. So simply I look at the cards, and I get a sense. Well, I see that this orange will go in the center of the board a bunch of times, and it looks like blue will concentrate on the top left area. That's it. I get a sense, and of course, then I'll look at the card every time. But I don't get an exact understanding of where they go, and that can make a difference because the AI going and taking one of my cubes or not taking the cube may make a difference between completing an objective or not. If you're playing the game solo, the automaton cards also indicate the end of the game because there will only be 9 turns. They move 9 times, and that is the end of the game. And at that point, you count points based on how many objectives you completed and how many points they're worth it, and also where you have your control. Which against the AI can be very powerful, so you can play the harder version in which you do not score points for the locations you control at the end, but only the objectives that you completed. Again, that's the harder version against the solo AI. This is the game, the Expedition. It is super simple, it is super light. When you're playing the game solo, it lasts 5 minutes or less, which why not for a game that travels so well during a lunch break, or when you have literally 10 minutes, because in a minute you're gonna set it up, you play in 5 minutes, another minute you put it away, and you're good to go. You can do the next thing. Super simple, super light, and again you can easily play a couple of games one after the other. As a solo game, sometimes I was wondering if it was a game at all, if there was enough strategy, enough things going on for that to count as a game, or maybe it was just a little relaxing activity I was doing with game components, moving things around. But guess what? Whether it was a game or not, as a super light activity, as a relaxing activity, I was enjoying it. So why not? As a solo game, again, I don't know if it's a game, but it's an interesting, relaxing activity. As a multiplayer game, which I play with 2 and with 3, super simple, super light, bit confrontational, can get more confrontational than you would expect maybe for a game this simple and light. But then, hey, so is rock, paper, scissors, very light, but it's 100% confrontational. But it's a super light game filler. As a filler, no problem. You're waiting for a friend to show up for game night. Again, this one sets up, you can teach it, play it, and put it away in 10 minutes. So as a super light filler, why not? And as a super light filler, again, I found it enjoyable if you can indeed withstand the pretty in-your-face nature of the game, in which in order for me to place a cube, most likely after the first couple of rounds, for me to place a cube, it means I'm taking away one of yours, but not always, only a lot of the times, not every single time. And it's definitely interesting to try to figure out what people are trying to do and see if indeed you can further your objectives while also preventing theirs. Looks like that person is trying to do a diagonal or trying to do a square. But again, if you only try to interfere with other people without also completing your objectives, that's not going to work either. If anything, it may have the 3-player dilemma, which is if 2 players start getting against each other, the first player who just stealthily does their own thing will tend to win. But you know that going into most 3-player games, so it's still up to you to try to prevent that from happening. So, even as a super light filler, there's still an interesting angle there as you're trying to balance the two things. Can I take away cubes that would otherwise help the opponents while helping myself? Again, super light, super simple, but in its category of a filler that you can set up, teach, play, and put away in 10 minutes, there's still more decisions than I expected, and the flow of the game and the interactions were still pretty interesting. The solo version, again, simple but relaxing. So in its own category of immensely light, immensely simple filler, the Expedition was definitely a pleasant experience.